In the quiet spaces between heartbeats and the shadows that stretch across our days, there lies a truth often veiled by the noise of this world. Not everyone is meant to receive the warmth of our kindness. For kindness is not the scattering of petals upon barren ground, but the planting of seeds in soil that is ready to receive and nourish them. To offer kindness indiscriminately is to pour sacred water upon stones that will never bloom. Yet when we discern where love may flourish, we align ourselves with the rhythm of eternity, becoming vessels of grace in a world thirsting for meaning. Every rejection, every moment of silence is not a curse but a divine pause, inviting us to step back and see the grand symphony of existence unfolding. For we are not mere wanderers in this world. We are artists co-creating with the divine. And in the end, it is the heart that loves with wisdom that truly shapes eternity. Kindness is a gift, a sacred offering from the soul. It is not something cheap or common, not a thing to be handed out carelessly like coins scattered in the street. True kindness carries weight. It holds within it the very breath of God, the pulse of eternity. And because it is precious, it is not meant for everyone. Now, I know that sounds harsh. I know we've been taught since childhood to be kind to all, to never turn away, to give freely without expecting anything in return. And yes, there is beauty in generosity. There is grace in an open heart. But there is also wisdom in knowing where to pour that grace and where to withhold it. Imagine for a moment a gardener, one who loves the earth, who nurtures the land, who longs to see life bloom. He walks into a barren desert, his hands full of the richest seeds. He kneels down, presses them into the cracked soil, and waters them with care. But the sun is merciless, the ground is dry, and no matter how much he gives, nothing grows. Day after day he labors, giving all he has, yet the land remains unchanged. Now, does this mean the gardener is not loving? Does it mean he lacks compassion? No, it simply means he has chosen the wrong place to plant his seeds. His love is real, his efforts sincere, but they are wasted on ground that will never receive them. You see, kindness is not about giving endlessly without thought or direction. It is about planting in the right soil. It is about recognizing that love must be given where it can take root, where it can grow into something that blesses and multiplies. And there will be times, my friend, when the Spirit whispers to your heart, this is not the place, this is not the person, walk away. But that's hard, isn't it? Because we want to believe that if we just love enough, if we just give enough, people will change. We think if we keep pouring kindness into someone who mocks it, who abuses it, who takes and never gives, eventually they'll see, eventually they'll understand. But that's not how it works. Even Jesus himself, the very embodiment of love, did not force his kindness on those who rejected it. He spoke the truth, he offered grace, but when people hardened their hearts, he did not chase them. He did not beg them to receive what they were unwilling to accept. He simply moved on. And so must we. This is not about withholding love out of bitterness or revenge. It is not about turning cold or becoming indifferent. No, it is about honoring the sacredness of what you carry. It is about understanding that kindness is not a cheap thing, and not everyone is ready for it. There will be people who mistake your kindness for weakness. There will be people who take advantage of it, who drain you dry, who leave you weary and broken. But listen to me now. You were not meant to be anyone's endless well. You were meant to pour into the right places, to offer your kindness where it can bring life. And so when you find yourself standing before someone who tramples your love, who spits on your goodness, who turns their back on your kindness time and time again, have the courage to step away. It is not cruelty, it is not unkindness, it is simply wisdom. For kindness is not meant to be wasted on barren ground. It is meant to take root, to flourish, to bring forth life. And when you learn to give it where it truly belongs, you will see the beauty of what it was always meant to be. There's a profound wisdom in knowing when to give and when to withhold. Discernment, that quiet, steady voice within us, is often drowned out by the noise of guilt and fear. But it is this very discernment that allows us to love with true purpose and intention. You see, kindness is not blind. It was never meant to be. We were not called to pour ourselves out endlessly for those who are unwilling or unable to receive what we offer. Yet how often do we find ourselves doing just that? How often do we find ourselves drained, exhausted, and broken, all in the name of being kind? But kindness without discernment is not love. It is self-betrayal. It is the giving of your heart's treasure to those who do not recognize its worth. It is the offering of light to those who prefer the darkness. And friends, that is not what we were created for. Think of the ocean. The tide does not rush endlessly upon the shore. It comes in and it goes out. It knows when to rise and when to recede. There is a rhythm to its movement, a wisdom that governs its flow. In the same way, we must learn to follow the rhythm of the Spirit when it comes to our kindness. We must learn to give when the moment is right and to step back when hearts are closed. The world will tell you that love means never giving up, that kindness means tolerating anything and everything. But that is not the way of truth. Even the Lord himself, in his infinite mercy, does not force his love upon unwilling hearts. He offers, he knocks, he waits, but when the door remains closed, he does not break it down. And neither should we. There will be people in your life who resist the kindness you offer, who take your love and twist it, who use your compassion to manipulate and control. And when you sense that still small voice within you saying, "This is not where you belong," you must have the courage to listen. It's not easy, I know. We want to be the healer. We want to be the one who breaks through. We want to believe that if we just try harder, love deeper, give more, something will change. But there are some hearts that are not ready. There are some souls that must walk through their own valley before they can receive what you long to give. And so the loving thing, the truly kind thing, is to step back and allow God to do what only he can do. This is not rejection. This is not abandonment. This is trust. Trust that the one who formed that soul knows the right time, the right place, and the right season for healing. And in the meantime, you are called to guard what is sacred within you. You are called to pour your kindness where it can take root, where it can bring life and restoration. So when you feel that tug in your spirit, when you sense that your kindness is being poured into empty hands, do not be afraid to walk away. You are not withholding love. You are protecting its power. You are not turning your back on grace. You are waiting for the right soil, the right heart, the right moment. For kindness, when guided by wisdom, becomes a river of living water. It flows where it is welcomed. It restores what is broken. It brings life to the weary and hope to the lost. And when you learn to give with discernment, you will find that your kindness is not wasted, but multiplied in ways that echo through eternity. There's a certain pain that comes with offering your heart and being met with silence. When your kindness is rejected, when your love is ignored, when your effort seems to vanish into empty space, it can leave you feeling unseen, unworthy, and forgotten. But I want to tell you something tonight. That silence is not the end of your story. It is not failure. It is not rejection from heaven. It is, in fact, a divine movement, a pause orchestrated by the hand of God himself. You see, life is not a straight path. It is not a simple journey from one act of love to another, where every seed we plant springs up and bears fruit. No, life is a symphony. It is a great unfolding masterpiece where both sound and silence play their part. And just as the quiet between the notes makes the music beautiful, so too does God use seasons of rejection and stillness to shape us, to guide us, and to protect the sacred gift of kindness within us. But how often do we mistake that silence for failure? How often do we cry out to God asking why our love was turned away, why our kindness was misunderstood, why our efforts to heal and restore were met with coldness? We think we've done something wrong. We think if we could only try harder, love deeper, or give more, we could change the outcome. Yet, my friends, there are moments when the silence is mercy in disguise. When God, in His infinite wisdom, allows doors to close and hearts to turn away, not to punish us, but to protect us from pouring ourselves into places that are not yet ready to receive what we have to give. Jesus Himself experienced this. There were towns where He performed miracles, where He spoke words of truth and life, and yet the people rejected Him. They turned their backs on the very one who came to save them. And what did He do? Did He beg them to understand? Did He force them to receive His love? No, He moved on. He allowed the silence to speak. He trusted that the Father's will was being fulfilled, even when human hearts refused to see it. And so must we. When your kindness is met with coldness, when your love is turned away, do not despair. That silence is not wasted. It is part of the grander design. It is God's way of redirecting you, of guarding your heart from being poured out in places where it cannot take root. But here's the truth that sets us free. The rejection of others does not define your worth. Their inability to receive your kindness does not make your love any less real or your heart any less pure. The silence of man is often the voice of God, gently leading you toward those who are truly ready to receive what you have to give. So do not harden your heart. Do not grow bitter. Do not let rejection turn you cold. Instead, trust in the one who sees the full picture, who knows the right time, the right place, and the right people for your kindness to touch and transform. For every moment of rejection is a step toward divine alignment. Every closed door is a whisper from heaven saying, not here, not now. And when you learn to embrace that silence, to see it not as failure but as guidance, you will find a peace that this world cannot take from you. And one day when you stand before the one who knows every tear you've shed, every act of love you've given, and every moment you've endured the silence, you will hear those words your soul has longed for. Well done, good and faithful servant. There's a rhythm to this world that we cannot always see. An invisible current flows through creation, binding every soul, every moment, and every encounter into something far greater than what our eyes can perceive. And within this great design, kindness is not simply an act of goodness. It is a force, a movement of the heart that flows from one soul to another, carrying the very breath of God Himself. But here's what many fail to understand. That flow is not meant to be poured out recklessly. It is not meant to be given where it is resisted, where it is mocked, or where it is drained without appreciation. Kindness is sacred. And when it is offered in the right place at the right time, it has the power to heal, restore, and transform. But when it is given where hearts are hardened, where motives are selfish, or where wounds refuse to heal, it becomes like water poured onto dry, cracked earth, disappearing without nourishing the soul. You see, God created this world with a divine order, just as the rivers flow to the sea and the rain falls to nourish the earth, so too does kindness have its appointed places to flow. And when we force it into places where it is not welcome, we are not operating in love. We are stepping out of the divine rhythm of creation itself. Think about the life of Jesus. When He walked this earth, He healed the broken, comforted the weary, and lifted the downtrodden. Yet He did not force Himself upon those who rejected Him. He did not chase after those who turned away. He knew when to offer, and He knew when to let go. There were moments when He stood silent before those who mocked Him. There were towns He left behind, shaking the dust from His feet, because their hearts were not ready to receive what He carried. And the same is true for you and me. When your kindness is given freely but met with scorn, when your compassion is taken for granted, when your love is drained by those who refuse to grow, that is not a sign to try harder. That is a sign to release, to step back, and to allow God to do the work that only He can do. We were never meant to be the source of healing for every soul. We were never called to pour ourselves out until we are empty and broken. No, we are called to be vessels, conduits of God's love that flow where the Spirit leads, not where guilt or fear would drive us. And when you learn to follow that flow, when you begin to discern where your kindness is truly meant to bring life, you will find freedom. You will find that your love multiplies, your strength is renewed, and your heart is filled with peace. But hear me now, there will be times when God will lead you to walk away. There will be moments when you must stop fighting for people who refuse to heal, who resist the truth, and who drain your spirit. And in those moments, it will feel like failure. It will feel like you've abandoned them. But friend, that is not abandonment. That is obedience. That is trusting the one who sees the heart, who knows the hidden wounds, and who can reach them in ways you never could. So when you find yourself weary from giving, when your kindness is met with rejection, step back and ask, Lord, is this where you want me to be? And if you hear that still small voice telling you to release, do so with peace. For kindness, when it flows in harmony with the Spirit, becomes a river of life that cannot be stopped. There's a truth that many struggle to accept. Setting boundaries is not an act of rejection, it is an act of love. You see, love in its purest form is not reckless. It is not meant to be poured out endlessly on those who take without gratitude, who wound without remorse, or who refuse to grow. Love is sacred, and to protect the love within you, to guard the kindness that flows from your soul is not selfishness, it is wisdom. We live in a world that often confuses love with sacrifice, kindness with compliance. We're told that to love others means to bear all things, to forgive endlessly, and to give without limit. And yes, love is patient. Love is enduring, but love is also discerning. Love knows when to reach out and when to step back. Love knows when to embrace and when to let go. The truth is, when we allow ourselves to be drained by those who abuse our kindness, we are not reflecting the heart of God. We are instead abandoning the divine responsibility we've been given to steward what He has placed within us. The heart, my friends, is a precious vessel. It was never meant to be trampled upon or poured out on barren ground. Even Jesus, full of mercy and grace, set boundaries. He withdrew from crowds when His spirit was weary. He walked away from those who sought to trap Him. He did not chase after those who rejected Him. And on the cross, He offered forgiveness, but He did not force it upon those whose hearts remained hardened. And if the Son of God, in His infinite compassion, understood the importance of boundaries, how much more should we? Yet, so often we allow guilt and fear to keep us bound to relationships that drain our spirit and steal our peace. We tell ourselves that if we just try harder, love deeper, or give more, something will change. But the truth is, there are some people who will not change until they are broken. There are some hearts that will not receive love until they've walked through the valley of loss. And in those moments, our calling is not to keep giving, but to step back and allow God to do what only He can do. There's a beauty in boundaries that many fail to see. When you choose to guard your heart, when you choose to protect your kindness, you create space for healing to happen, not only within you, but within others. Sometimes the absence of your kindness is what awakens a soul to its own brokenness. Sometimes your silence speaks louder than words. And so when the Spirit leads you to walk away, do not fear. Do not let guilt or the opinions of others keep you bound to places where your kindness is wasted. For you are not called to be a savior. There is only one Savior. You are not called to heal every heart. That is the work of the Holy Spirit. Your calling is to love wisely, to give where love can flourish, and to step back when hearts are not ready to receive. And in doing so, you will find freedom. You will find peace. You will find that your kindness, once guarded and protected, flows more powerfully than you ever imagined. For when you honor what God has placed within you, you align yourself with the rhythm of heaven. And in that place of surrender, true transformation begins. You may never know the full impact of your kindness in this life. You may never see the seeds you've planted or the hearts you've touched. But rest assured, when kindness flows from a heart that walks in wisdom guided by the Spirit of God, it leaves an eternal mark, one that reaches beyond what the eyes can see and the mind can comprehend. We often measure the value of our kindness by the response it receives, if people are grateful, if relationships are restored, if lives are changed. We feel that our kindness has accomplished its purpose. But what about those moments when kindness is met with rejection, when love is ignored, when forgiveness is mocked? Does that make your kindness meaningless? Absolutely not. For the truth is, we are not called to control the outcome. We are not called to change hearts or to force people to recognize the love we offer. We are simply called to give as the Spirit leads, to love as Christ loved, and to trust that God will take what we offer and use it in ways that stretch beyond our understanding. When you offer kindness to a soul that is not ready to receive it, that kindness does not vanish. It becomes a seed planted in the soil of that heart. And though the ground may seem hard and unyielding now, there will come a day when the rain of God's mercy will soften it and that seed will begin to grow. You may not be there to see it. You may not witness the moment when a heart is changed, when a soul is healed. But your kindness will have played its part in the great work that God is doing. There will be moments when you feel weary, when you wonder if your love is making any difference at all. There will be times when you are tempted to harden your heart, to withhold your kindness from a world that seems so cold and ungrateful. But hear me now. Do not grow weary in doing good, for in due season you will reap a harvest if you do not give up. You see, kindness is not just an act. It is a reflection of the heart of God. It is evidence that His Spirit is alive and working within you. And when you give with a heart that is surrendered to Him, your kindness becomes part of something eternal. It becomes part of the great unfolding story that God is writing in the lives of those around you. So do not be discouraged when your kindness seems unnoticed. Do not be disheartened when others reject the love you offer, for God Himself is watching, and He will honor what you have given in obedience and love. One day, when this life has passed and we stand before the One who knows every sacrifice, every tear, and every silent act of love, we will see the full picture. We will see the hearts that were softened, the lives that were changed, and the souls that were drawn closer to God because of the kindness we chose to give, often in moments when it seemed futile. And on that day, my friend, you will know that not a single act of kindness was wasted. Not one moment of compassion was in vain, for what is done in love when led by the Spirit echoes into eternity.